Well, welcome to the Mighty Mole channel. It's Wednesday evening, and just a brief update. Tried to snow today. It's been cold. I haven't played any golf for a month, but we're still going to work on that this year. But just getting ready to head out to Bible study, 7:30, and we have Luke 6. Quite interesting, and what intrigued one of the most things was when Jesus prayed all night to pick the 12. And the other time that he prayed all night was when he was contemplating the cross. And I often feel so short of that effort. And then when he came down, it said he stood on a plateau and all gathered around him. And what touched me about that was Jesus didn't stand on a hill above others where only the strong could reach him. So those of us that might be timid, weak, or otherwise had equal access and to touch his hem at that time, it says. And then there was room for everybody. And then it goes on to talk about having given, and then it shall be given you, pressed down and running over. And Enduring Word site says it like this, that you can't outgive God. And there's been some disruption in my faith, or what we call the friends, the truth, quote unquote. You would find them on Facebook and internet, the 2x2s, the friends. And just think, if you were one of the victims, you'd have to pray all night to forgive somebody. If you were abused physically, mentally, whatever, you'd have to pray all night to forgive somebody. When I had an addiction, I had to pray all night with the Holy Spirit and sweat all night to gain the favor of God. Have you tried that? And just think what that means. Most recently in our gospel meetings, and this is a personal invitation to anybody that sees this, we're having gospel Bible meetings Sundays at 4 o'clock at the All Saints Hall on 40th and Southeast Woodstock. Sundays, 4 o'clock. All are welcome. There's about 80 to 100 of us that meet there. And I've been part of this faith, 62 years, but you have to be part of it. And most recently, we had a funeral for one of our dear ministers, Jim Gurton. He preached 53 years in the Philippines. And one of his companions, our ministers go 2 and 2 together, homeless. No other way can do it. They're homeless, without a job, without a salary. Nevertheless, so Renate Furman, speaking last Sunday, talks about temples not made with hands, and not one stone will be on top of another. In other words, Jesus would fulfill that, and the temple that they were in with the priest and the showbread and the altar was going to be done away with. So he had a friend that was an architect in the Philippines. And they asked him to help work on this, putting this church together. Beautiful. Architectural genius. And he says to our friend Renate, who's a minister over there, says, they're building the temple to put God in. But can you be a temple that God would want to be in? Oh. Therein lies the real question. So I find last Friday that my dear friend Jane Vandermeiden Guevara passed away in 2024. And she lived here in Portland in 1984 through 86 at a friend's house. She was going to dental school. And I don't know what happened. I was 23 and too dumb. But I had a crush on her. And so I found out she died. I didn't know that. Well, I wept all night. And then I recalled that in 2022, Kathy McClinn, one of our sister ministers, came back and said, Jane, good news, professed in the Guam Convention. She had moved back to Guam in 86. So, you're 23. You don't have enough sense. So, and she was more mature. And so Jane came up to me after convention and said, I'm so glad I got a second chance. Or maybe so glad God gave me a second chance. To wherein now her temple of life, God re-entered. We fall so short of such greatness and goodness of the Lord that she was away for over 27 years. She married somebody that just said, you cannot go there. And if we're going to have a marriage and go there, well, they lived in Hawaii. What are you going to do? She didn't. Well, he had a heart attack in 2021. And unbeknownst to us, Kathy said she didn't feel good and she didn't look good. Come to find out, she had rare, precedes early, brain tumor. Suffered immensely, and then she was gone pretty quick. So if we could ever attain to the mercy of God, Luke 6 talks about meet unto others, M-E-T-E, judgment as you'd want to be judged. That such a great standard we all fall short of. And so this is just my verbal conversation to you folks tonight. And what was one other thing? Well, see, I got it in my notes right here. We are called to unconditional love, but not called to unconditional approval. So you wonder sometimes why somebody might reprimand you, and then you understand the words of Paul when he said, admonish one another in the Spirit. I'm not sure how to do that, how to tell you how to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. I am just so thankful that I've never hated God. And even though I walked away like Jane, and the Holy Spirit had a different plan for my life, and you have to pray to the Lord would remove certain thinkings, distractions, and deceptions. There's big decepting. There's a great falling away from our church. Great falling away. So we're headed out. So thanks for listening to the Mighty Mole channel. This is the Mole Man. Have a good evening.